Kan Hokage, a 17-year-old high schooler and hardcore gamer of Taku, is quite concerned about not having a girlfriend and aims to change it as soon as he can. One usual late afternoon, he is logged into his favorite RPG and is struggling with a dragon solo raid. Longsword in hand, but like any great swordsman, Kan tries to perform a long-charging ultimate move, but fails miserably as he gets attacked while charging his skill. He is agonizing over ways to beat the dragon when someone sends him a chat request in-game. After accepting Flora's invitation, it takes no time or thought to accept her next request too. After all, how could Kan ever refuse the advances of a beautiful girl who is possibly showing interest in a boy as responsible, decisive, and organized as him? Kan may just have met the woman of his dreams online, a pretty-looking character in the game, a cute and feminine voice, and above all, someone hitting on him. He unconditionally accepts her request for help in real life, prepared to go even to the next prefecture within a day to meet up. Flora tells him not to worry about any of that, for she will be meeting him soon. We're thrust into the middle of a high-speed pursuit. A beast-drawn royal carriage with a small girl inside is being chased by mechanized troop carriers with turrets. One of the shots hits the carriage, crippling it. Troops from both sides pour out and come to a face-off. The guards from the carriage fall one by one until only one remains. Even when outnumbered, the man who called himself Steel Sanglane declared he wouldn't ever forget his duty under any condition. The lieutenant leading the brigade, Variation, draws his sword and in seconds is flattened by Kan on his swivel chair falling from the sky. Kan has no idea how he got here, but gets roped in by the small girl's party. The little girl, revealed to be Akarlate Juptra Street Pyria, a 36th princess of Street Pyria, and her party managed to escape into a forest on the outskirts of Street Pyria. Kan gets bombarded with questions before he can catch a breath. He has not come to terms with his situation yet, even though he thinks it may all be a dream. The princess brings him back to his current reality with a punchline. His fantasy setting is absolutely messed up, with cliche names for places, a small brat for a princess, Guts without the depression and who loves cats, Sanglane, and the strong, mature, and charming Mariandale, who could be his potential love interest, being transgender and not a woman like he assumed. Variation returns to their military camp to report back to his leader, Ericpile Dukakis, ED. Kan gains a bit more insight into this fantasy world and his situation. He learns of his newly joined party's objectives and the reason they are being chased. Princess Akarlate, the 8-year-old girl who is already as mature as a grown-up, was on her way towards the capital city to marry Lord Jugleberg for a political alliance. It was the militant faction that attacked them, which did not want the alliance to come to fruition. The party made their way into the nearest city after Kan made up his mind on the reward he wanted for saving them from their pursuers, a pair of shoes. But they have to still be on guard for any followers in this place. The caution paid off. Sanglane notices 2 soldiers tailing them, and they sprint into an alley to shake them off. Kan's reflexes, apparently, are just as terrible as his choice of shoes. Mariandale brings out the guns in this sword fight, while the soldiers bring the rocket launchers. How did Kan get caught up in all this, indeed? Shaking off the soldiers, they use the underground tunnels to make their way east to the gates out of this city. Misjudging the quiet as having successfully escaped, Kan leads everyone out into the open to be greeted by Ericpile waiting with his Alma gear. Sanglane and Marian are both blasted back in one strike, and Kan gets his sword shattered too. He gets back up before Ericpile can do something to the princess. This encourages him to use his full force of Kan to break his resolve and get rid of the nuisance that managed to take his lieutenant off guard. Kan manifests his inner dragon and defeats Eric in the same way his character was defeated in the game, except this time by kicking Eric in the testicles as hard as he can with his spiky new shoes. The party escaped from the city shaking off their tails, and Kan also helped himself to Eric's Alma gear sword. While he still does not have a clear answer as to what he plans to do, Princess Akarlate seizes the opportunity and appoints him as her knight, albeit with a little persuasion from Sanglane. It's a sunny new day and Eric wakes up in a well-decorated and serene hospital room. But this environment does not provide any relief from the trauma he suffered the other day. The door to the room opens, letting the menacing aura seep in. A doctor with ultra-reflective spectacles stands as a bearer of unfortunate news. Eric, from now on, has to live true to his initials. He has been permanently and deeply scared and vows revenge against the one who called himself DT. Kan still cannot accept his position as a knight, a servant of the princess. It was not like he had any choice and not much knowledge of this world to go on, frequently going on rants about how he was forced to sign up for this work. At every turn, Sanglane reminds him it was an official order from the princess of the Street Pyria Empire, and his protests hold no weight, and he has no opinion on whether he should value his life. At least, according to the princess, he would be worrying about his next meal in this post. Khan storms out in a fit of rage, and as expected, nothing of value is lost and no one chases after him. Sanglane and Marion discuss their next steps and decide they will keep heading for the capital, albeit in a smaller group this time, not with additional soldiers like in the chariot, so they don't draw unwanted attention or slow down. Moving fast and covertly as a small cruise seems like the best option. The battalions congratulate Eric on a safe recovery while not knowing about the precious thing he lost. He is constantly reminded of his pain and embarrassment, and he heads into the tent. Khan, with complete abandon for battery economy in this fantasy world, is enjoying the Ixion Saga DT opening music in the shade of a large tree near the river. Marion pops in and takes him for a walk while she's on errands. She requests that Khan reconsider leaving them and informs him of the prestige that comes with the rare title of being a knight. They make their way to the carrier pigeon coop to employ the services of comically large birds. These carrier pigeons are the most common mode of communication in this world, with only the capital having the luxury of Alma communication. Aripile Jukakis goes to report on his mission. They have not found the princess yet but are prepared to move out at a moment's notice once they do. His superior wants this mission to succeed as soon as possible to halt the progress of the moderate faction in their empire. Eric also needs to get his sword back from Khan. He chuckles, thinking to himself that even if Khan has the Almagear sword, he can't put it to use and poses no real threat with it. He did not know that even if Khan had no idea how to use it, the sword was still being used to cleanly cut trees and was receiving quite harsh treatment. Sanglane and Khan were talking about the weapon, and at the same time, Eric was busy with his report. While they do conclude that it was no normal sword as it has an Alma crystal attached to the pommel and a trigger near the hilt, and their pursuer was able to blow them away with a single slash, they couldn't harness that power for themselves. Sanglane couldn't feel any Alma energy being emitted. To Khan's disappointment, his plans to go sell this dysfunctional sword for massive profit were cut short by Princess Icarlate calling him for a talk. She takes him to the top of one of the towers in the city and carefully explains the state of the world they are in. To prevent this balance of power from being disrupted and the world from burning in the flames of war, it was important that she secure an alliance with Lord Jugleberg, and of course not be intercepted by the militant factions while doing so and killed. She earnestly requests his help. Khan tries to explain that everything he has done so far, including both times he managed to save the princess, were coincidences. The first time was an accident and the second was just the enemy being too clueless and vulnerable. He isn't as strong as the princess believes him to be. Their conversation is interrupted by the sudden rumbles and cannon fire. Erpile and his battalion have caught up to them in this city, and with his new chariot he takes the city hostage and threatens to flatten this place and kill its citizens with the destructive fire of his tank unless DT and Princess come out of hiding for them. The Princess party rejoins. Sanglane believes it would be very difficult to escape under these conditions, even more so when the city is held hostage. Variation tosses a grenade and forces them to come out of hiding, right into the plaza where Eric and his forces were gathered. This prompts him to turn his tank and aim the cannons at the party. Pressing the trigger, to everyone's surprise, the shot actually goes to hit the building Variation and Leon were in. Eric fires one more time, and again it does not hit Khan and his party, but instead his own officers. Eric can't seem to take aim or balance himself. This causes him to remember his shame. Sanglane spares no time in taking this chance to open a way for Khan to put the Alma sword to use. Dodging machine gun fire, he slashes at the tracks of the tank, essentially immobilizing it. Taking a stance and performing the classic anime protagonist scream, Khan prepares for an attack using the Alma gear. The enemy does not take him seriously since these weapons can only be used by select people, dubbed Hyperions, since the common man cannot supply the Alma gear with enough energy. To everyone's surprise, Khan presses the trigger on the sword, causing it to shine and take on Alma energy around its blade. He charges at the tank in front of him, sword in hand, fully ready to land a finishing strike. To everyone's surprise, a new overpowered enemy takes the field and puts a stop to Khan's attack. Khan trips on a pebble. The sword falls out of his hand. Upon picking it up, he finds that the rock gets stuck to the tip of the sword and the whole Alma gear now looks like a hammer. Eric takes this chance to fire another shot at Khan. Both hit each other at the same time, and Khan's hammer both deflected the shot fired by the tank and wrecked it in the process. Eric Pyle walks out of the flames and runs straight at Khan with his sword, but fails to maintain his balance. He is unable to aim as well. Khan observes this and taunts him, fully understanding that anything that Eric does will fail. And it does. Eric jumps high into the air, does a flip, and makes use of gravity to lunge straight at Khan, completely missing him and his sword going right through the ground like a hot knife through butter. It was quite impressive. Khan swings his Alma-boosted hammer and ensures Eric maintains symmetry in the future. The militant faction officers go to tend to the downed Eric and decide to retreat as per his prior orders. Khan also expresses his disapproval for the nickname DT that they had been using all along. Sang Lane prevents him from attacking the enemies who are fleeing. He either has to nor should poke opponents stronger than him. Either way, Khan saved the day again, and the princess party is very grateful for it. After leaving the city together, he makes a deal with the princess. He would join her party and accompany them, on the condition that they also make efforts to find ways to send Khan back to his original world. The princess accepts and also informs him that it would also be convenient for him to tag along since the significantly more advanced capital city must have facilities available that will enable his return or at least provide clues for the same. In the distance, the mysterious woman who has been following the princess party and especially Khan ever since he arrived in this world sends off a small creature to tail him. It's another beautiful sunny day. Another serene morning in an elegantly decorated room. Yes, Eric Pyle wakes up in a hospital again and is immediately jerked awake by the recent traumatic memory of the incident that led to his being admitted here. The mysterious harbinger of unfortunate news is standing in the doorway. The doctor informs him of his updated condition now, completely shattering Eric's world. On a different side of the world, the conversation from earlier continues in the princess party. Khan wants to know a sure way to get information on how to return to his original world. Marion believes, as evidenced by the fact that he is able to use Alma's energy freely and that he fell from the sky, that Khan might be from Olvidia. Olvidia is a mythical continent that was lifted into the skies by the Ixtians long ago. Khan learns more about the connection between Ixtians and Alma crystals, like the one attached to the pommel of his sword he borrowed from Eric Pyle for an indefinite duration. While walking along the road, they came across a small creature. It is the same one that the mysterious woman who had been observing them sent off. Marion and Sang Lane are instantly smitten with the small creature, and it does its best to appeal to them as well. The creature walks up to Khan, but he is stern about ignoring it and moving on with their journey. He constantly goes off on a wild tangent with reasons as to why they should ignore the small creature. Meanwhile, on a different side, the officers of the militant faction after the princess are gathered in a circle. They are discussing the sudden and indefinite leave Eric Pyle took from his post. There seem to be a lot of rumors and speculation surrounding this incident, starting with medical leave or punishment for losing a chariot tank. We also finally learn the name of this group of pursuers, Incognito. The princess and her entourage are wondering about Khan's behavior from the previous morning. He made it very obvious that he wanted nothing to do with the small creature that they came across and persuaded everyone to leave it behind. But at the same time, behind closed doors in his guest room, Khan is shuffling awake on a futon, curious about the whereabouts and safety of the very same creature that he so strongly decided to leave behind. He goes to sleep. The door to his room creaks open, revealing small paws. The tragic life he had when in his childhood he rescued 2 kittens and got permission from his mother to the sun rises the following morning. Khan seems to be struggling. His chest feels suffocating. There's no sign of the comfy sleep he was meant to have. His eyes open to notice the heavy weight sitting on his chest, and he leaps up with a loud scream. The rest of the party rushes over after hearing this startling sound and finds a scene where the creature from the previous day is on the futon, looking at Khan, who is stuck in a corner in aversion. The same move from the previous day ensues, with Marianne and Sang Lane all in favor of keeping the creature, while Khan wants nothing to do with it. Both sides are quite adamant on this, since the creature apparently followed them all the way there. Marianne declares that she will take responsibility for it. In response, we are introduced to the secret character of the show. Old nagging Mon Khan makes an appearance and tries his utmost to convince everyone else to agree with him. He tries every excuse in the book and is met with equally compelling and nonsensical counters from Marianne and Sang Lane. After the princess declares she won't interfere and lets Marianne do as she pleases, Khan hatches a different plan to get rid of the creature. He tries to buy traps, capture, and poison, but is stopped by someone at every instance. They hold another meeting on Khan's suspicious behavior. He still tries to evade their reasons with the weirdest excuses possible. Marianne eventually corners him and tells him to be honest. This time, Khan opens up about his past. Take them in, feed them, and care for them. But after all that, the 2 kittens seem to hate him. He does not want a repeat of that in this world as well, which was his actual reason behind the odd behavior. Everyone tells him to give the creature a chance. Perhaps this won't be like before, for it wasn't too late to reconcile with the creature. He tries to pat it. The creature bit his whole hand. An epic battle ensues after both of them decide they are not going to be nice to each other anymore. The end gets absolutely wrecked after Khan even goes to use his Alma sword. He wears himself out and passes out after the creature bonks his face. The party decides to take in the creature, with Marianne being responsible for it. They continue their journey to the capital. Stopping for a quick rest under a tree, another fight ensues between the creature and Khan after it runs off with his share of the food. While comedy ensues, the group decides to name the creature. After a long debate, Calm informs everyone that it will be named Pet from now on. Yet far from there, Anirecap and Variation are on their way to Erek's family estate. He is still on leave, and Variation offered to drive him home for rest. The Dukakis estate is usually unoccupied, with the butler maintaining the premises. But on that day, Erek's fiancée Amelia was on a visit. She wanted to welcome him after hearing about his leave and scars from battle. It is evident that she cares deeply about Erek. She warmly welcomes Variation too, the subordinate who saved Erek on the battlefield. They go inside, and the butler, since it's an isekai, the butler is of course named Sebastian, shows Variation to his guest room. In a different room, Erek breathes in the calming air of his home and the welcoming presence of his loving fiancée. Amelia takes this opportunity to give him a salve for his wounds. It's from an old recipe passed down in her family and is said to be very effective. On hearing the inquiry about where exactly on his body he was hurt, he falls into a fictional crisis of his own making in his head. He cares deeply for Amelia as well and does not want there to be a rift between them. But his scars from defeat were very concerning and caused his mind to run wild with fantasies where every possible future where he opens up to Amelia about his condition results in her leaving him and also tarnishing his honor forever in front of everyone. After much agonizing, he decided it would be best to keep it a secret. He refuses the salve, unknowingly making her sad. He leaves the room and steps out of the building with Variation planning to leave. Both Sebastian and Variation are uneasy about the tension in the air and his behavior towards Amelia. Erek is eventually convinced to take Amelia with them. Her face instantly brightens up when Erek calls her. The road trip to their destination, a lake in the woods, had Erek continued his train of wild thoughts from earlier. He still can't think of a future where Amelia doesn't leave him after finding out the truth. At the lakeside, the intrusive thoughts come back to hit him when she playfully asks him a question about their future. His insecurity and trauma are triggered inadvertently, and he walks out of there. Amelia is worried about his recent behavior and asks Variation about his wounds, only to find out that he didn't let anyone else know either. The trio is back at the estate as the sun sets. They are met with two distant relatives of Erek named Limpus and Gabriella, who immediately try to give Erek a secret medicine that was passed down in her family. Erek initially rejects it, but upon hearing that it is very effective in regenerating wounds and you just have to drink it, he accepts it. Amelia is hurt by this since Erek strongly refused to give her the salve earlier. It seemed to her that he trusted his distant relatives more than he did his fiancée. All of them had their dinner prepared earlier than usual. Sebastian prepared food and drinks on time as requested. Back in their guest room, the two siblings are executing the scheme that they prepared. Limpus is brewing it while Gabriella is readying herself with makeup and a night dress. Their goal is for her to seduce Anirecap with the help of the stimulant and force her way into the Dukakis family through marriage. At the same time, Limpus would console the heartbroken Amelia and lure her into marrying him instead. In this way, they secure enough influence and finances to revive their own family, which has been going through difficult times. The finished brew is taken to Erek by Gabriella, who is in his room. She gets him to drink it, lie down, and engineer a situation where she screams, and everyone who came to respond is greeted by the apparent sight of Erek forcing her into bed. Her brother made sure with loud and irrational comments that all efforts by Erek to clear this misunderstanding would be in vain. Their goal is to ensure Amelia is hurt, and they believe this engineered scene is successful. Erek wants to prove his innocence and regain honor, and he proposes a duel to settle this matter. The other party accepts. Variation follows the siblings to their carriage and eavesdrops on their conversation about the dastardly schemes. It also confirms that Erek is innocent. Nevertheless, Erek does not back out of the duel. If not for preemptively putting an end to the schemes, it's to atone for hurting Amelia. Early in the following morning, Erek, Variation, Limpus, and Gabriella meet at the appointed place. They confirm the terms of the duel, and the siblings lure Erek into saying he will be in this fight alone without help. Limpus calls upon hired muscle that had been hiding nearby. All 7 of them gang up on Erek, but he does not back out. Taking all of them on, he makes quick work of them and calls on the final opponent, Limpus. Yet the latter shamelessly calls a giant bird, this time as a substitute. Erek is getting tired after fighting the gang and now this bird, but he can't ask for help according to the terms of the agreement. A familiar voice calls him. Amelia ran here to cheer him on. The giant bird turns to attack her. This could turn into a disaster, but Erek, now with enough resolve, makes use of his Hyperion powers for the first time in this so-called duel and slays the bird before it can hurt Amelia, dedicating this victory to her. Only the final and original opponent remains. Limpus tries to talk his way out of things, and Erek does give him a chance. But like the weasel he is, he kicks Erek in the groin as soon as he turns around. He truly believes he won, and according to the terms, he will get all the fortune from the Dukakis. However, After all the intense experiences he went through to prepare his body for this day, Eric is unfazed. He is furious this time. The weasel named Limpus is getting on his nerves by this time, not only having schemed that resulted in Amelia getting hurt and cheating in the duel, but, above all, touching upon his insecurity. It takes one hard uppercut to knock him out of commission, and Eric goes back to his friends and fiancé. Sebastian and Variation are concerned for him, since any man would be in immense agony after that hit he took. But he brushes it off with the statement that he had been practicing. It's time for Eric and Variation to leave, as the former decides to go to a proper spa to focus on his recovery. The recent fights showed his condition once again. Amelia is there to see him off and offers the medicinal salve once again. Eric graciously accepts at this time and assures her there's nothing to worry about anymore. Promising to return soon, they finally set off towards the Tamatsukure hot springs. The upper echelon of the older religious order, the ones backing Incognito, the militant faction that stands against the alliance Princess Icarlate is going for, are holding a covert meeting. The facts of the matter are shared, along with the new factors that have come into play, stalling Eric Pyle's progress with the capture of the princess. One of the priests there employs the services of a bloodthirsty criminal named Jorg, who was chained in the dungeons. It is clear that he plans to do something without others being in the know until the results come to pass. Meanwhile, Khan is still wondering about ways to get back home. They are unaware that they are being followed by Jorg. Soon, they arrive in another large town, where they book into an inn. Khan is sharing a room with Sanglain, and they are fidgeting and flailing on the sofa, while the other polishes and maintains his sword, respectively. Khan is uneasy about the fact that it may take them 2 more months to reach the capital, where he may find clues to getting back to his world or try to get an audience with the Ixtians, who will facilitate the same. Marion suddenly steps into the room, informing Sanglain and the princess odd behavior. She fears that if it is indeed what she thinks it is, they will have to tread very carefully around her. Marion takes Sanglain with her to confirm her suspicions. He takes the hint, and they dash towards the princess' room with Khan and Pet in tow. Icarlate is sitting on the couch, looking through the window with a deadpan expression on her face. With one look at her after opening the door, Marion and Sanglain confirm their fears. Flustered, they immediately take leave, leaving her in peace, and also make sure to shut Khan up before he does something that should not be done. They inform him of the princess' state. Having that ahoj present on her head is a sign of a certain period that the Royal Street Piria family members have when they transition into a period of serious hyperactivity. They'd experience intense mood swings, have a deep appetite, and even the tiniest of annoyances can throw them off the rails. A voice comes through the door, telling Marion to prepare food for the princess soon. She gets to work without wasting any time. The whole kitchen inventory of the inn is spread out. There's an assortment of ingredients spilling out of the table. Marion lists 10 lavish recipes that she can prepare with the present materials. It is not enough. She sends Sanglain on a shopping trip to get more ingredients, while Khan needs a little more persuasion to accompany him on the trip as an aide. They book out the entire inn, so there is no collateral damage among the guests if things don't turn out well. The duo sprints out with the carriage towards the shopping lanes, buys the things they need, and zooms back to the inn. Khan can barely stand straight with the weight of just 13 of the ingredients on his shoulders. Sanglain takes the time on the trip back to thoroughly drill into Khan's head the severity of the situation. The princess is a ticking bomb, and they do not know what could trigger her. They can only tread very carefully and listen to her wishes. They have noticed only a single ahoj so far. At its worst, if the princess gets 3 ahojas on her head, all hell breaks loose. Even if he hasn't witnessed the princess' hyperactivity period himself before, Sanglain understands very well what disaster could fall on them and the people of this town if the worst comes to worst. Khan does not understand why he's so fearful. After all, it looks like the moody ramblings of a spoiled child to him. Marion is fighting her own battles in the inn's kitchen, having already exhausted most of the supplies and awaiting more. She has prepared a lot of dishes in huge portions, and it is still not enough. Sanglain and Khan arrive, put down the bags of fresh supplies, and immediately get to work again. They take the large plates filled with food upstairs to the princess' room. Icarlate has already finished the food served a little earlier as the two arrive with a fresh batch. It takes no time for her to clear that as well, and she instructs them to bring more food, something richer this time. Marion, having to work without a break by herself, has her fingers going numb and her body fatigued. This is still no excuse to stop. The cooking must go on. New dishes are still being prepared and served to the princess. It takes no time to empty the plates. Khan and Sanglain's bickering is starting to get on her nerves. Icarlate is on phase 2 with the second ahoj out now. Satan is pale and sweating with fear. He is instructed from now on to talk like a cat, putting aside the way of talking that she found annoying. He must swallow his pride and comply. This was neither the time nor place to endanger his life or that of the people of this town. The pet is instructed to behave like a bird. It has no option either. It must, from now on, chirp and fly. The sun will set soon. Marian's mind has long since left this place. She is preparing a whole pork spit roast. Jerked back to her senses, she is still frantic about the list of things she has yet to prepare, dessert, snacks, and preliminary preparation for the next day. Sanglane's sanity is at a low point. He has to speak like a cat. The pet is tired too. No one is in good condition, neither mentally nor physically. Khan wonders about the reason that is pushing everyone around into overdrive. He feels it's time to put an end to the current state of things, and he will go convince the princess to stop acting so spoiled. Acting against Marian and Sanglane's protests, he heads up to talk to the princess. He scolds her lightly and tells her to be easier on the others. Somehow, to everyone's surprise, he manages to convince her to get out of the room and bring the plates downstairs herself. Mioin believes it would have been a near-fatal experience if things had gone even a little awry. Sanglane emphasizes that it was very reckless. Khan still believes the storm has passed and it wasn't a big deal. Night comes, and it is time for bed. Just as the lights are off, Jorg, the assassin sent by the older religious order, finds the cue to get to work. He makes his way into the kitchen first, where the lights are still on. If ignored, the person awake may alarm the others, making his work significantly harder. He leaps at the person awake with his knife at the front. Marian effortlessly, almost instinctively, locks the incoming knife with a whisk of all things. Demon form Marian absolutely devastates Jorg, who interrupted her work meant to keep humanity safe. After suffering both physical and verbal abuse, he is forced to give up on silencing the person. There's no way he could ever go back there. He decides to preserve his life and go for the main bounty instead. After all, a small girl could only scream and cry. She couldn't possibly hurt him or provide enough of a struggle. He walks up the stairs only to find Sanglane crouched and sitting against the wall in the moonlit corridor. He gets up from his place and starts walking towards Jorg. He gives him a very serious warning to turn back without making a noise. He should leave immediately for his own good. Jorg was seriously creeped out at the sight of a muscular, tall, grown man walking towards him without any bloodthirst nor a welcoming air about him, and above all, speaking in a cat-like voice. Staying here any longer is not going to be healthy for him at all. He runs away immediately. By sheer coincidence, the room they ran into to escape the menacing and mewing Hulk turned out to be the princess' room. This should make his work a lot easier. He walks over to the bed at the center of the room and is about to thrust his knife. What followed is something that never should have happened. This one move threatened the lives of everyone, not just a single person. Not too far away, Khan is living a life of blissful ignorance and peace. What could have been a bathroom break like any other was interrupted by a frantic Jorg. The door bursts open and Jorg runs up to the nearest person he can find and climbs up, taking cover. The only tragedy here is Khan's clothing getting wet. Jorg is visibly shuddering, filled with dread. Icarly was nothing like what he thought. The angry demon could have ended his life if he had been any slower to escape. Khan can't take him seriously. He must be a hired act to convince him of something. Together, both of them walk up to the princess' room. Khan goes near the bed to check up on her, only to find it vacant. His candle's light is blown out, causing him to move near the window for a short moment. Jorg is still feeling the chills and gets ambushed by the object of his fears. Something is very wrong here. Khan can feel it. There are eyes somewhere on the ceiling looking at him. There's an eerie presence inside the room, and the presence is extremely furious. Princess Icarly, in her final boss phase, leaps at Khan, taking him by surprise and causing him to fall. Her follow-up strikes to eliminate this nuisance are strong and fast enough to break the concrete walls. This creature out of Bloodborne lays waste to the older religious order's assassination plans and causes the notorious criminal Jorg to never surface again. Tamatsukir Hot Springs is one of the special regions where water with traces of alabaster ore and minerals gushes from the ground. This makes the springs of that place therapeutic and eases the recovery of any injury, as well as stimulating the body further. By sheer coincidence, this resort town is the next destination of both Princess Icarly's party and Arekpile. Sanglane leads the party to a lodging named the Jewel Inn. The hostesses lead the members to their booked rooms. The princess and Marian get a large room that comes with baths, massage rooms, and more, while the guys get a small room meant only for sleeping. They keep their belongings, change into suitable robes, and immediately hit the hot springs. Khan, in his excitement, suffers a lot of embarrassment, and it doesn't end there. Stimulated, he storms out of the springs before he is found out. He could not enter their room after forgetting to take the keys from Sanglane. Eric is being guided to his room by a hostess, and he enters the same corridor as Khan. With the former being out for blood, if he sees Khan, it would be best if they didn't meet. Khan might not get lucky a third time. But luck wasn't on his side this day anyway, with all doors being locked, having to cover his crotch and beam on the corridor where he's under constant risk of Eric noticing him. He decides to head back into the baths, for Sanglane might be his last hope, but he finds the place vacant. To add to the pressure, Eric enters the baths. Khan hides and ends up witnessing Eric's prayers to the gods, something that might have been best left unwitnessed. He has to meet up with the rest of his party and seek refuge in a room anyway. He remembers that Sanglane was quite excited about the red light district nearby, so there's a good chance he may have sneaked off there. Khan goes to look for him, and after walking around a bit, he comes to the conclusion that he has to know Sanglane's preferences if he wants to find him reasonably soon. This thought chain leads him to a cat cafe where people pay to be able to play with the many cats in there, a haven for lovers of the cute critters. Lo and behold, Sanglane was indeed in there. He drags him out and informs him of the situation. On the way back to the inn, they end up having to take a small detour at a foot bath to escape Eric, who seems to be out of breath. While things should go a lot smoother now, ends up adding another surprising problem to Khan's pile. He glows radiantly. Back inside their room at the inn, the sudden glow-up in Khan's appearance didn't subside, and he decided to do something about it. If it was Alma energy-infused spring water that caused both the stimulation and the glowing, then that is what may revert his body to a normal state. Nonchalantly, he goes into the baths, and the spring water causes his body to lose its glow. Eric was sitting quietly, almost blended into the surroundings near Khan, also taking a dip in the spring. He recognizes him and immediately tries to initiate a duel. He feels that Khan's whole existence is an insult to Eric, causing him to lose his honor and pride, and then he keeps throwing salt in his face while in the hot springs. Khan convinces Eric to postpone the fight, for it will most certainly cause problems for others and damage the premises. They agree to switch locations as soon as they put their clothes back on. Eric falls for his schemes and Khan ambushes him before the actual agreed-upon start to the fight. He makes full use of this to escape from the Hot Springs city with his party, putting an end to the Hot Springs chapter. The journey as the capital continues. Princess Icarlate, Sanglane, Marion, and the internet browser Incognito Guy arrive at a small village. They occupy a table and order freshly prepared food for their lunch. The three are unable to stop stuffing their faces with the delicious food, while Khan, in his suspicious incognito outfit, can only look at them in envy. Even the smallest gap in his costume will cause the dazzling light to come out. They tell them to wait until there's no one around, and he can then have his packed food in private. Even if he has been living on simple bread so far, any slip-ups will draw a lot of unwanted attention, with Khan still shining due to the excess Alma energy in his body. He cannot control himself anymore and ends up opening a small gap near his mouth to eat the food on the table. The light from that tiny gap causes everyone present to turn heads and signals the end of what was a peaceful lunch for the rest of the party. Even on their way out of the village, they are met with countless stares, with people even asking Khan to put away the covers and show his face. Running or shoving does not help when people start ganging up on him out of curiosity. They are in a pickle if this was orchestrated by their pursuers. People, when met with something alien, tend to first chase the disruptive element away. Something unusual generally means trouble, illness, or the precursor to a calamity. Everyone in Icarlate's party has goosebumps on their skin. Now that the secret is out, anything could happen. But we know this is a comedy series. There's no witch hunt. The village people bow down around Khan with reverence. The elder of this place comes forward, citing a prophecy that says a god will descend from the skies, and he, together with his holy beasts and his servants, will lead them to salvation. Unsurprisingly, as the protagonist of the show, Khan foots the bill. Sanglane tries to speak out to clear up this misunderstanding, but is interrupted by Khan, who has a different plan in mind. He decides to capitalize on this situation and declares himself to be the god of the prophecy, saying Marion and Icarlate are his servants and pet is the holy beast of concealment from the legends. The devious plan works. They are led to a large house and Khan is served with the local delicacies. Khan is fixed on this decision shamelessly, even after his party members protest against this kind of masquerade. There are good odds of them finding out the truth, and leaving will be even more difficult if it comes to that. Right then, the elder steps into the room, informing Khan of the preparations he had been making. All of the village citizens and more are gathered in a large area, awaiting Khan. He is visibly perplexed and put under more pressure by his comrades, reminding him of the gravity of the situation. There are hundreds of people gathered in the area, wishing to witness a miracle from the prophesied god, who came to bless them. "Let there be light," says Khan as he shines even brighter. He starts emitting a blue hue now as numerous butterflies flutter in, attracted to the light and concentration of Alma's energy. It almost passes for an actual miracle. Khan makes full use of this instance. One of the people among the crowd asks the Lord to perform another miracle on the village well, which has been dry for a long time. Khan signals Sanglane or Poseidon, his new nickname for the current situation, for that thing. With the almagear in hand, Khan smashes the ground with its power, causing rocks deep underground to shatter. The underground water gushes forth. This has to be another coincidence, but Khan presents it very convincingly, quite smug about how things are going so smoothly so far. He waves at his new followers, inciting a huge wave of cheer. One by one, the followers ask Khan questions, asking for his teachings. They range from Genesis, creation, the state of the world, reincarnation, and more. Khan comes up with answers out of thin air and preaches his video game console religion. This Spartan religion keeps gaining followers. It thrives, and new premises are built for him to continue his preaching. Back in his newly constructed temple lodgings, Khan is being attended by a lot of women, surrounded by gold and lavish offerings. Sanglag, Marian, and Icarlate come in, requesting to speak with him alone. The attendants leave. They chide Khan for being too greedy and to stop with this farce of a fake god. They have stayed here long enough and Khan is forgetting his original objectives. Slapped back to face reality again, it all starts to sink in. In the middle of the self-reflection, the elder comes into the chamber again all of a sudden. He urges Khan to go out to address the ever-growing number of followers who came to learn his teachings as soon as possible. With his ceremonial garb on, Khan peeps out of a small window at the literal sea of people outside. There's a crowd as far as his eyes can see. Coupled with the recent reflections, Khan knows this is no longer sustainable. It is already too difficult to leave, and the longer this goes on, the more people will join the religion, and eventually things will get very ugly once he is found out to be a fake. The party has missed the window to leave because Khan is having fun. They put on the incognito outfit and try to sneak out, but are discovered by the elder and a few more followers. Excuses do not work. They want to go along with him, which is of course not possible. The Spartan faith has expanded to massive proportions within a short time, enough to rival another major faith in the land of Mira, the Order of Olga, apparently the same order that sent the pursuers after Icarlate and backed Eric's incognito group with the same, but Icarlate and co. do not know that. The Spartan followers intend to seek Khan's blessing to go south and start a holy crusade against the Olga Order. Khan's disapproval does not have much effect as the wheels of a crusade have already started to turn. Even if he kept the religion's ideals pacifist, he had to address the agitation of the followers. Khan needs to come up with something, anything, to make all the followers divert their attention and energy to something that does not cause a conflict and make the situation even more complex for the princess party. He makes a new announcement to everyone, reminding them of the sheer size of the faith and asks for new grounds and a temple for this religion to thrive further. The new Holy Land was to be built on the mountain he pointed to in the distance. The immediate issues are delayed, but there still needs to be a safe way to exit this place so they can continue their journey without hurting anyone or causing trouble. While three of them discuss such ways, Sanglane puts his knowledge to use, designing a blueprint for the new temple. Yes, a man whose appearance does not match the person within he apparently graduated at the top of his class and has a degree in engineering and architecture, besides being a swordmaster and military general. It certainly makes you wonder what you are doing with your life, doesn't it? Steadily, the temple is constructed without a hitch. A large new holy ground is created for pilgrims, with the grand temple on the mountain at its apex. With one last order, Khan and the party fly off on the hot air balloon designed by Sanglane that runs on Khan's Alma energy. They manage to fly off safely, but things don't go smoothly as the glow-up phase just ends. While Khan and others are happy now, for they can travel without seeming too suspicious, Sanglane knows and tells them of the new problem on the horizon. The balloon used Khan's energy as propulsion, and now that he is out of the excess energy, it is just a matter of time before they start to fall.